Welcome to the Liberating Arts, and today with our special guest Brancusi, a Romanian sculptor, and he put me into reading about Plato and Neoplatoism, so that was interesting to take a look at that too, because basically Brancusi was the one who was inspired by the idea of an divine, say, purity, a divine sense of form that is behind everything that you see. And of course, in that sense, it is really lovely and very familiar to just, in fact, what we just shared in terms of looking at things through a lens, a human lens. You would see the things that you're used to. These are glasses, this is my phone, that's my headphone set, or whatever. Like, here's this screen, I'm looking at the screen. Now, that would be a very concrete form of materialized vision. And that cannot be like the perfect form, because literally it is temporal, it can break, I can throw it away, I can lose it, I can do all kinds of things with it. And so Brancusi had like, okay, there has to be a way of looking at this in a different way, and like there must be a perfection behind all form. There must be an essence connected to form that we cannot see, but it must be there. And this was really based on the idea of a perfect universe somewhere that Plato already wrote down a long time ago. So Brancusi got in touch with that in some kind of way. And that's lovely to use. So that's why we use that in the assignment too. It's like there must be a perfect form behind what you see. Now discover that. And it's like sketch it. Try to visualize that. Try to make that visible for yourself. Just as an attempt can be a real lot of fun to do so. And it might give you some kind of idea of what lies beyond the form. Now this is great. So there are some things that, I've some, my own examples, of course. I have my own examples with Brancusi. I've seen his work quite a bit. And it's not necessarily that it has to be about him. It is more like I use him as an example of as one who started to expand his vision, not staying with the old. Like in his time, everyone was just adding stuff to sculpture. He worked with Rodin. Well, Rodin was full of expression, full of like articulation in his sculpture, like bodies perfectly round, but also like you could almost see every muscle. You could see everything, every little extremity was accentuated. And with Brancusi it was different. Like he went the other way. Instead of putting more detail to it, he would slice it off and say like, okay, what can be taken away from this, but still has the essence of it. Less is more, that kind of thing. But see, in that time it was revolutionary, so he had to defend it even in court, that it was sculpture, because people said like, well, what are you trying to sell here? That is not sculpture. We want articulation, we want form, expression that we know, and what you're doing is like you make a flying, like a bird in space that has not even feathers, or that has nothing recognizable at all. It's completely abstract. So he defended that in court and in fact won the case. And from that moment on it was more common to start to use abstract art, abstract sculpture. So that was one thing that he did. So what I always have liked with the idea of Brancusi and the way that he works is the fact that you can say like, you sculpture something, or like Rodin, he would make a model in clay and then make some kind of way bronze of it, or like this. But Brancusi worked directly with the material, and that included in that he started to sculpture stone, and he started to work with bronze itself as a chunk of bronze. Now, what I've liked about his way of work was, in fact, the meditative way of working that he did. That was very inspiring to me. I followed this example for a long time, that I didn't want to use any electrical tools at all. So he did that too, and he was, for instance, when there was a bronze that he made from bronze, like from a chunk of bronze, he would make it into a form that is literally to the essence of the form. I will give you some examples in a moment, like the whole idea of bird in space is a really beautiful example of that. Like, there's hardly any form that looks like a bird. Well, you can still recognize it, and of course it's a very powerful way of expressing. But what he did was this: he would literally make this by hand. He would polish it. He would be busy with one sculpture a year long in order to have this perfect shape with no deviation. Like now these days you can make it with CNC, or like this computer way of making things. So you can 3D print it. But he would make it by hand and literally polish it and shape it for a year on one sculpture, for instance. So he did this with some of his sculptures. Now, his language that he used in his sculpture was basically very silent, very still. So you could, for instance, one of the expressions is then you see chairs around a table, all made of marble, and every chair is the same. The table is round and the chairs are around it. Now it's like a gathering or something. That's the title. I don't know exactly anymore, but it's like it only basically breathes silence, stillness, and there's a real happening. Like there's a lot of communication in this statue, in this sculpture. There's a lot of communication by just being part of it, or maybe even sit on a chair. But it's like that is more alive than you can possibly know if you didn't get in touch with it. So anyway, this language of expression is really beautiful to listen to or to see. Search for essence beyond form. Here's a picture of him too. Like, he was an interesting artist in the sense that he would use also his studio as an almost like an ambience, as a place where his sculptures would really be placed as part of his world. So it's like he included art into his world completely. The same with the people that he met. It was like all inclusive. Like he made one thing of it, not separate parts, or here's the museum and there's the artist. No, it was like there was a fluent connection to all of it. Constantin Brancusi's art is defined by a search to move beyond mere representation, to capture the fundamental essence of his subjects. His work represents a pivotal shift in the 20th century of sculpture, moving from the detailed narrative of his contemporaries, like Rodin, to a new, simplified and abstract language of form. Now, I got here a little icon with the kiss, for instance. It's just an icon, so it's not the sculpture itself, but it looks very much like it. Made of one piece of stone. How sweet is that? And Brancusi's core philosophy was to reveal the inner hidden reality of things rather than their outward appearance. He believed that what is truly real is not the surface, but the idea or the essence of an object. This search for truth and the absolute in his art was influenced by a blend of sources. Yeah, like I said, Plato was part of it too. Like, he was fascinated by Plato's theory of forms, which posits that a true perfect form exists for every object. Brancusi's sculpture, such as his many versions of Bird in Space or The Kiss, are not portraits of a specific bird or a specific couple. Instead, they are an attempt to capture the universal and timeless idea of flight or love. Okay, so here we're getting into one piece. This is the bronze version. So here's the marble version, and here's another bronze. So he made this, and then he made like bronzes of them. So it's like this is the origin, and this is the copy of it. But anyway, so I'm using this. Now take a look at this. That's really very minimalistic, you could say. It's like it's just the head. There's not much expression in the face. So it literally breathes like a serenity, a purity. And this is great. And this is just the bronze. Now here's the interesting part, and I shared it with some of you already, but it's like when we when we were in the Krallemølle Museum, you can see this. Krallemølle is a museum in Holland, and it's really lovely to walk there. Now here's the thing that I want to use, because Brancusi used this specific sculpture, like the head that you saw, like the Sleeping Muse it's called. The Sleeping Muse is there. Like, the Sleeping Muse is incredibly popular. It's worth millions in human dollars, you could say. So he also made the beginning of the world, which is even less expression. It's like an egg-shaped form, and also with an incredible expression, but also it's very popular. Now here, the Sleeping Muse, I want to bring this in as an idea. Now imagine, like, the beauty of the Sleeping Muse is quite so. And of course, it's always personal. Taste is always personal, but it's really beautiful. Now here's the thing, and I shared this before, but it's fun. It's like, imagine the Sleeping Muse is literally inspiring to so much beauty. Now imagine that this Sleeping Muse awakes, that it becomes literally like awake, that it starts to wake up out of its dream. How much inspiration would that give? Now here, you can, think about that. That's great. It's like, imagine, Sleeping Muse is already so incredibly beautiful. Now imagine that it awakes. How much will it inspire? And so here's this synonym for your own awakening. Imagine when you look at yourself and you have like a great day, and you look at yourself, it's like, wow, that's great. I'm happy with myself. Well, in your dream, you say like, wow, I'm happy with myself. So say that to me. I'm happy with myself. Now imagine that you're fully awake out of this dream, rejoicing in the love of God. How much would you be inspired? How much would you be in total bliss? Like now, if you have a good day, you just forgave your brother, you feel a stirring of truth through you. And imagine now that you're completely awake, not being bothered by any kind of limitation, any kind of sickness, illness, any kind of consideration, completely free, completely aware that your mind is whole and that you're rejoicing in heaven. Yeah. So this is how I use the muse. Anyway, so this is wonderful. Now, to have even a little bit more depth to the expression of coming to the essence of form, I'm sharing with you probably 10 minutes of a French movie about Brancusi, but it gives you the atmosphere in which this all takes place.
Je voudrais créer comme je respire.
Constantin Brancusi est sans conteste un des plus grands rénovateurs de la sculpture moderne. D'une extrême sobriété, d'une clarté absolue et d'une grande rigueur architecturale, son œuvre est en rupture avec la tradition du modelé d'après nature. Très secret, méfiant, n'accordant aucun entretien, Brancusi nous laisse quelques rares documents d'archives et une œuvre gigantesque de plus de 400 pièces. Né en 1876 en Roumanie, après quelques fugues et l'école des beaux-arts de Bucarest, il arrive à Paris en 1904. Il commence par étudier auprès de Rodin. Pourtant, très vite, il refuse de travailler avec le maître.
Ses premières œuvres révèlent déjà une sensibilité nouvelle. Si le bras coupé de Nicolae Darascu, un ami peintre, fait inévitablement penser à Rodin, l'émotion du visage, la force et la vulnérabilité d'un torse presque adolescent, le traitement sommaire de la chevelure s'en écartent.
La réalité n'est pas la forme extérieure des choses, mais leur essence profonde. Partant de cette vérité, il est impossible à qui que ce soit d'exprimer quelque chose de réel en restant à la surface des choses.
En taillant directement dans un bloc de calcaire, Brancusi s'éloigne définitivement de Rodin. Avec le baiser, il réalise une œuvre révolutionnaire, première version d'un thème qu'il ne cessera de réinventer durant 50 ans. La taille directe dans la pierre ou le bois donne un sentiment d'immédiateté. Ici, les amants sont le rocher. Ils n'ont d'autre existence spatiale ou temporelle que la leur. Cette muse est devenue l'une des images emblématiques de l'œuvre de Brancusi. Distanciation vis-à-vis de son modèle, vitalité intérieure, autonomie de la forme, respect de la matière et révélation de sa luminosité particulière. Le raffinement extrême suggère l'influence de l'art asiatique. Les nombreuses reprises de ce thème plastique montrent l'importance et la valeur d'intemporalité que Brancusi lui conférait.
All right, so I put the reference in the syllabus, so you can, and in the description of the video, I will do that too. Like then you can take a look at the whole, if you feel like doing that. I think it's lovely to hear about this, and not necessarily as, okay, I'm going to do that too, or whatever, but more like there's a whole different way of looking at how he worked and say what he did for that. And you see this back in the things that he made. And so, of course, it is with you. It's like whatever you put in there, it is what it will give back to you too. Now, specifically, I'm referring to, for instance, if you work with stone, I had this experience, like if you work with stone and you see a rough piece of stone and you make something, like you sculpture something out of it, and that's all great and wonderful. So then it's like there's a polishing moment where you start to polish it, shape it, and smoothen it as much as you can, and you keep doing that. Suddenly it has a shine. Suddenly it is like so brilliantly perfect in the form that it has, it becomes something else. It becomes like a jewel that you make. And then you, for instance, put oil on it, and then everything, all the patterns that are hidden in it, suddenly come to the surface and become visible. Now, these are just little things, little experiences that you can have with meditatively working with a stone and giving shape to it, letting it become the shape that literally it gives to you, or you're in communication with it. In other words, something comes out of it. It becomes an extension of you. Not to identify with it, not to do anything else with it, but just like this is what you give to it. This is how you, in fact, take time to see beauty grow in your hands. And for me, that was a very important experience. So I used that, making dolphins or whatever I made out of soapstone. It was very easy to work with. Soapstone is very soft and very easy to shape, but also very beautiful. So that's just an idea. Now, we are inspired. We are inspired with our assignment, for instance, and so we're getting into the practice of this. So I'm going to start to share my part in it. I do this just as an example. The idea of wave came to me. It's like we were talking about particles and waves in healing. It's like you want to become a total wave and not particleizing anything. Like there's a freedom in the wave. As soon as you observe it, as soon as you use your lens, it becomes solid. And this is what you don't want. You don't want to make a particle out of a wave. Now here, this idea of wave was an inspiration for me. So I'm sharing with you a sketch that I made with paint, but also a poem that I wrote related to the wave. So I'm going to share that right here. So here's the wave coming up. Bring it back to the essence of the form. Still some detail and still some extra things. So I'm not there yet to make it complete and pure, but it was an attempt, and it was great to work with it. The wave, deep aquamarine, blue all around, transparency without opposite, clear deep ocean, water body without limits, on the surface out of the blue, pushed upwards like uncontainable joy, expanded elasticity, rhythmic dance throughout, matrices of energy, infinite variables displayed, marine blue tapestry, sacred movements of immeasurable amplitudes, frequency of eternity, cosmic unified verse. Contained in this melody, embedded is a gift, the beauty and grandeur of the wave, and the ocean in all its vastness is just a reflection of the immaculate innocence, the divine beauty, a present in you.